even when we can't see what God is doing. We have to train our faith eyes to see that God is up to something, even when our natural eyes cannot see what God is up to. If we do not train our faith to utilize its sight, then what happens is that we miss opportunities to praise God. We miss opportunities to celebrate God. We do this because we have not properly trained our faith sight to notice when God is up to something. Because it doesn't always look like what our natural eyes perceive that God is up to. And henceforth, we come into this moment in the scripture of a regular man named Elijah, who is a prophet of God. Elijah is special. He is probably one of the most demonstrative prophets that you will see. He doesn't just say that he believes God. He shows that he believes God. And he shows that he believes God so much that he is willing to stand up against anyone who opposes God. Now, when the scriptures in the New Testament says that Elijah is a man of like passion, it means that he has the same attitude as we have sometimes. He has the same disposition as we have sometimes. Elijah is used to being happy one day and then being sad another day. Elijah, if you read his life story in the scripture, you'll find out that he can get angry just like we get angry. That he can become depressed just like we become depressed. But the thing that never changes about Elijah is his faith in God. Because there are moments in your life that you have to recognize that that was God that did it. And if you have moments in your life where you recognize that nobody else could have done that thing but God, then when another thing comes rise, you have to stand on the last thing that you remember that God did in your life. Have I got any witnesses in here? That there are moments in your life when you know that as good and as much as you love your husband or your wife, you know that God had to do that because that wasn't them. That no matter how much you love your boyfriend and your girlfriend, you know that it wasn't them that did it. God had to do this. You know that no matter how much you love your job, you know that you didn't have enough money to get yourself out the hole that you were in. If God had not stepped in and made a way out of no way, you would not be able to be here today. Do I have anybody in here that could take 30 seconds to praise the God who was able to do some stuff exceedingly abundantly above all that you can ask or think? My. And if your neighbor asks you why you're praising God, tell them it's because I'm praising God. He did something that I know nobody else could do in my life. This the praise for what nobody else could do. This the praise for the impossible. This the praise for no matter how much money I had, I couldn't buy enough medicine to get that sickness off me, but God. Now, it didn't matter where I worked. It didn't matter what I did. I just didn't have enough money. I didn't have enough friends. I didn't have enough people in my life to do what I wanted to do. If it had not been for God on my side, where would I be? And so Elijah has these regular experiences with God where he recognizes that only God could have done this. And even though he had the same attitude that we sometimes display, the thing that held him up was that he knew what God could do. The same thing that should hold you up when you're going through different trials and tribulations. What should hold you up is that you know what God can do. In the midst of your storm, you know what God can do. In the midst of your trial, you know what God can do. In the midst of your tribulation, you know what God can do. Because if you hold on to what you know will be power enough to get you through and to get you out. How many folk want to get through it? I know you want to get out of it, but you got to get through it before you can get out. Getting through it is how you get out. God could pick you up, turn you around, and plant your feet on solid ground, but what would you learn about God? So God says, no, I want you to know that I am with you, that I live in you, that you have my power in you, and that the same way that I overcome every obstacle that comes my way is the same way I want you to know that you can. But all you need to do is start with what you know that God can do. How many people in here know what God can do? And so when different challenges come up in Elijah's life, he has to do the exact same thing we have to do. He has to push away the fear. He has to push away the doubt. He has to push away the pain. And he has to say, God, it doesn't matter what I'm going through. I already know what you can do. As a matter of fact, we are better than Elijah. We're in a better position than Elijah because Elijah had to know what God could do just based on the few experiences that he had. But we can know what God already did. Because what God already did, the Bible says, is that he's already died on the cross. He's already taken the stinger from death, and he's already taken the flame power out of hell. He's already given us a right to salvation. He's already risen from the dead. He's already claimed himself to be the heavenly Father. He's already stated among himself that all power now lies in my hand. And as a result of that, not only does he say that you can be saved, but he also says that you can be new sons adopted under my blood, new daughters adopted under my blood, and that I have already given you everything that pertains to both life and godliness. That means that if you're living in sadness, that's on you. That means if you're living in depression, that's on you. That means that if you're allowing sickness and pain to take over your attitude and your disposition and cancel out your joy and cancel out your peace, then you really don't know what God can do. Stop calling yourself a believer in God if you don't know what he can do. Because if you know what God can do, then you're not worried about anything. You're not doubting about anything. You can stand on your business. You can stand on your faith, and you can stand strong because you already know what God can do. If he picked you up one time, then he can pick you up again. If he turned you around one time, then he can turn you around again. If he healed your body one time, then he can heal your body again. If he blessed you, he can bless you again. If he paid the bill one time, then he can help you pay the bill again. Whatever it is that you need, God can do it over and over and over and over again. And the only thing that the devil is mad about is when you stand on your faith and he gives you your best shot. Get right back up with your resilience and say, it's all right that you hit me, but you can't knock me down because I know what my God can do. Does anybody in here know that your Redeemer is alive right now? I dare you look at your neighbor and say, my Redeemer is alive. That means your marriage not dead. Your Redeemer is alive. Your hopes are not dead. Your Redeemer is alive. Your children are not dead. Your Redeemer is alive. Your love is not dead. Your Redeemer is alive. Your Redeemer is alive. Your peace is not dead. Your Redeemer is alive. Whatever you go down into, your Redeemer can pick you up out of it. He is resilient. He is strong. He is powerful. And I dare you to just shout, my Redeemer lives, and I know it. Elijah knows what God can do, and he knows what God can do so much because he's seen God do it. He was never afraid to go on to the next challenge. I hope you heard what I just said. Because he knew what God could do, because he had seen God already do things, he was never afraid to go on to the next challenge. I mean, he went from doing just, it's like raising somebody from the dead all the way to calling fire down from heaven. How does one do this except he knows that the same God that can raise someone from the dead is the same God that can send me fire down when I need it. You've got to get in a place in your life where if you are really going to faith for it, you have to realize it's the same God. It's the same God that blew breath into your nostrils this morning and had you get up out the bed talking about you didn't want to get up. If it had not been for God that breathed that breath, do you know that God breathes air not because he needs it, but because you do? Do you know that God sees light not because he needs light to see, but you do? Do you know that God made water not because he gets thirsty, but because you do? I mean, everything that is in God is so needed by us. He does not survive off of anything that he created. He is self-sustaining, and it's the same God. That means that the same God who was in the beginning, who made the heavens and the earth, is the same God that made the universe. It means it's the same God that made the dust in the ground. It means it's the same God that made the lion in the field. It's the same God that made the elephant. It's the same God that made the tree. It's the same God that made the water. It's the same God that made the seas and the ocean. It's the same God, oh my goodness, that made the fruit. It's the same God that made the wheat. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof, the world and they that dwell therein. That means that if I know what God can, then I'm not afraid of the water. I'm not afraid of the lion. I'm not afraid of the elephant. I'm not afraid of the sea. I'm not afraid of the ocean. I'm not afraid that I won't have fruit. I'm not afraid of any of that, because if I seek the kingdom of God first, all these other things that all belong to God shall be added to my walk in him, because he owns the whole kingdom. There is nothing that our God cannot do. Elijah stands, two men. And I know you say, two men. I read that story of him standing there talking to the prophets of Baal and then calling fire down from heaven. You don't hear about two people. It just talks about Elijah. But what you need to know is that Elijah always has a silent partner. Because I don't care how much power you have, you always need somebody that can encourage you when you get into yourself. And I wish I had a witness in here. Some of you think that it's about going to church for some religious duty or some. No. You need to come to church so you can have fellowship. You need to come to church because there's somebody that's going to be sitting next to you that can identify with what you're going through. And when you're down because of what you're going through, they just got out of it, so they could tell you everything's going to be all right, because I just got out of what you're going through. I just came out of what you're going through. It came out of that experience that you're experiencing right now. And when we begin to rub elbows and fellowship, then the strong can bear the infirmity of the weak until the weak becomes strong and bear the infirmity of someone else. You need not turn your nose up at church or any fellowship that's in God. Why? Because you don't know when you're going to need somebody that's at this place. You don't know when you're going to need somebody to grab you by your hand and say, come on up out of there. You can do it still. You're not dead. It's not over. God is still blessing. God is still moving. Girl, you're going to get out of this. Man, you're going to make it. Don't you quit right there. Don't you get right there. As a matter of fact, I wish I could have somebody to look at somebody else and just take 60 seconds and begin to encourage them in the Lord. Let them know it ain't over. Let them know that it ain't done. Let them know you can go ahead and smile. Turn that frown upside down, because you got it made right now. You just can't see it, but God is already doing it. And you turn around and encourage somebody right now and let them know, I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you go. I'm not going to let you down. I'm not going to let you fall. I believe that God blessed me so that I could be here today and I could be a blessing to you. Come on. Ooh. Tell me this, you can get mad or you can get up. I don't know if anybody caught that. You can get mad or you can get up. You can get depressed or you can get up. You can get frustrated or you can get up. Like, I want you to know that there are options. Like, you don't have to stay mad. You don't have to stay depressed. You don't have to stay sad. You can do either of those things, or you can get up. If you don't like where you're sitting, you can get up. If you don't like what you're watching on TV, you can turn it. If you don't like the ride that you're on, you can get off. I mean, you can either, the song you say, you could deal with this or you could deal with that. Y'all, come on. Don't act like y'all don't. Now, I don't expect my daughter and them to know that, but come on. Some of y'all from the 80s and the 90s, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Don't have me start doing the video. You can deal with this or you can deal with that. Don't have me do it. I can go back. That's what you need to do. We can go back. Elijah and his silent partner stand there together and evoke the power of God in such a way that men have never seen before. He literally calls fire out of heaven simply by praying about it. Now, there had been a drought in the land, and the drought in the land means that all the rain had been held up. And so Elijah is really there so that he can have God to open the heavens. But before he asked God to open the heavens, he said, I have to take care of all these disbelievers. I have to take care of all these anti-God people. They're disguising themselves as if they're believers, but when they stand here, they truly do not represent you. God says, I have to get them out of the way. And how was it? It had nothing to do with their robes. It had nothing to do with their tunics. It had nothing to do with the jewelry that they wore. It had nothing to do with any of that. It just simply had to do with the fact that they would not take time to really stand in faith in God. They put their faith in Baal. They put their faith in what they could see, and what they could touch, and what they could smell, and what they could control, and what they could manipulate. How do we know when you're not worshiping God and you're worshiping someone other than God? When you put your faith and belief in what you can control. Uh-oh, that went deep, that went deep, that went deep. That went deep. In what you can control, in what you can. If you can control your God, then that's not the God of the heaven and earth. If you can control your God, if you can tell your God when to bless you, when not to bless you, if you could tell your God who to whoop and who not to whoop, come on somebody. If you could tell your God when he should let you up and when he should not let you up, if you could control your God, then it's not the God of the heavens and the earth, because the God of the heavens and the earth, he is sovereign. He does what he wants to do. He doesn't have to have a meeting with anybody. He doesn't have to check in with the president. He doesn't have to talk to the Queen of England. He doesn't have to talk to anybody. When he gets ready to move, he just does it. He ain't got to worry about nobody liking you. He ain't got to meet with nobody that you did something to. He ain't got to do any of that. When he get ready to bless you and move on your life, he just steps past all your enemies, makes them your footstool, and then he'll prop himself up in your life. That's why the devil is mad at you right now, because he can't stop God from loving you. He can't stop God from loving you. He can't stop God from blessing you. He can't stop God from moving on your behalf. Come here, Job. He tried to show God all that Job would mess up, and God said it doesn't matter about that. As long as Job doesn't curse me, then I know that he is righteous for the blessing. I'm here to tell somebody, God just want to make sure that you don't turncoat on him. Because if you put your belief in what you can see, in what you can control, in what you can manipulate, then that is not the God that I'm talking about today. The God I'm talking about sits on the circle of time and eternity. The God I'm talking about doesn't have a birth. He just is. The God I'm talking about is so bad and so old. He say, I am the ancient of age. That means I was here before age. He says, I don't know anything about getting old. I don't know anything about gray hairs. He says, I don't know anything about muscles becoming tired. He says, I don't know anything about that. He says, I'm God. All I do is run everything. That's all I do. And your life is in the everything that I run. Don't you know I already prepared your next step? Don't you know that if you would open your faith eyes, you would see where to move and you won't have to worry? That if you open your faith eyes and walk by faith and not by sight, you wouldn't have to worry about who like you, who you can trust, who you can be around, who got your back for real. He says you don't have to worry about that. If you walk in the footsteps I have for you, goodness and mercy, they got your back. I wish I heard. He said love, that's got your front. He says joy is covered over you. If you are walking my plan out for your life, then the fruit of the Spirit is what belongs to you. Healing is your bread and life is your inheritance, that you might not only live it, but live it more abundantly. Elijah calls this fire down from heaven. 2 people facing over 100 false prophets. 2 people, a little facing a lot. After he calls fire down from heaven, he takes the sword. He has his servant give him a sword. And he goes around and he executes all of the false prophets. Then he tells the king, listen to this. He says, go eat and drink, celebrate. He's going to tell the king that he just murdered over 100 of his paid prophets to go and celebrate. He wants King Ahab to go back to Queen Jezebel that he know King Ahab is scared of. I'm sorry. He wants him to go back and tell Jezebel. See, the reason Ahab didn't really care about them prophets because they weren't his. Ahab was guilty of following her. Uh-oh. I don't want to get into that. I don't have time today. That's not the assignment. He follows her so much, she sends the false prophets down there to challenge the real God to a God test. It was the dumbest thing in the world. This is the dumbest thing in the world. That's like you trying to give the real God a God test. That sounds like the devil though, right? When he took Jesus up, Jesus was fasting. He tried to give Jesus the God test. And Jesus passed with flying colors. And it ended with, boy, don't you know. If you knew, you know who I am. You just want to see if I'm going to slip up. Because that's the best the devil can do. He knows who you are. He knows he really can't take you out. He just try you to see if you're going to slip up. Elijah passed the test. Fire comes down from heaven. He executes. And then he and his servant, they tell the king, celebrate. Go eat and drink because the rain is coming. He said, I hear it, which is funny because he didn't say, I see it. He didn't say, I smell it, because you could smell. You smell when rain is coming. And if you like my sister Lynn and myself, sometimes you could feel it. Anybody in here ever felt rain coming? I mean, the sun is shining bright, ain't a cloud in the sky. But when that knee gets to twitching, and you're like, oh, there's some rain coming from somewhere, I don't know. And all your friends that don't see it, they disbelieve you. But when you know what God can do, if God can send fire out of heaven, surely God can send rain out of heaven. But if you never saw the fire fall, you might not believe that the rain could fall. So all of a sudden, here is King Ahab, who at first was only doing what his wife told him to do. But something changed your life when you see fire fall out of the sky. It's some stuff you've been through in your life that just changed your whole idea on stuff. Just you used to know that can't happen until you see something happen, and then you change your whole life around. So and so will never do this to me until you see so and so do that to somebody else, and then you change your whole life around. I wish I had a witness in here. Have you ever seen something that you thought you would never see before, and all of a sudden it changed your whole life? Ahab said, I better get up and go eat and drink. I tell you that. I better go celebrate. I have not felt one raindrop, but I could celebrate at this man's word. I have not seen one raindrop, but I can celebrate at the prophet's word. The prophet that don't look like nothing, he don't dress like nothing, he don't keep himself up, he doesn't do any of that. He not wearing, great cologne, and he not doing any of that stuff. He just ruddy. He just looked like a guy off the street. But because God deals with him, and because everybody has witnessed that what he has asked God to do, God actually did it, it changed their life. I wonder why some of y'all lives. Let me wipe my forehead. I just wanted to make sure I asked this question correctly. I'm just trying to figure out how so many folk come here and have seen God do what the prophet asked him to do and still won't allow that to change your life. Still won't allow that to change what you think, to change what you feel, to change how you walk, to change how you talk, to change your attitude, to change. Why some of y'all telling me on the one hand that you've been a lifer for 10 years, but for all the 10 years you still coming to me telling me how I just don't think and I just don't know, and I hear what you saying, but you know what I'm saying, I know you said that for so-and-so, and then it came, I know you spoke that over me 5 years ago, but I ain't sure about this one. It's the same God and the same word. The same word that got you out of that when you listen is the same word that's going to get you out of this. I'm trying to figure out why you still walking around with your head hanging down. Why are you still walking around complaining? Why are you still walking around murmuring? If the prophet tells you that he went and asked God, could you get that job? And he come back to you and tell you, now go to the interview. Don't come to the prophet and say, well, I don't know. I better not go over there because I hear what you saying, but I don't know if that's for me right now. If that's you, then don't waste the prophet's, I'm sorry, I took it personal. Don't waste the time of the person that you're going to get a word from. If you're not going to believe it, don't waste your time. Just go ahead and believe what you're going to believe. Go ahead and go after it yourself. Go on and stay in the bed, because then you get mad at me if you come to me saying, I just want to know what God said to do. And I say, I don't know what God said to do. Go do whatever you want. You ain't no real man of God. You supposed to tell me how I'm supposed to move and what I had for breakfast yesterday and how I'm going to go down there and be blessed and highly favored. I can believe it all I want. If you don't believe it, the Bible says that the man who doubts, let that man know, not the person that's walking in the faith of God, no, not the person that's believing for them, but the one who actually doubts, let him know that nothing, he shall get nothing, not one thing, not anything, not an inkling of a blessing from God because he doubts. I don't know about you, but life is too short to not receive anything from God. Everybody say nothing. I'm about to be 53. Can you imagine what 53 years on this planet would be like if I didn't receive nothing? I'm using Ebonics right now. I know it's anything, but I'm saying what the Bible said. The Bible said, let him know that he shall receive nothing. Didn't say anything, said nothing. He wanted to be clear about it, like not one thing. If you doubt. A God who is benevolent, a God who is generous, a God who has everything and wants to bless you with everything, a God that wants you to walk in his favor, a God that lowers his own identity by calling you his child. I mean, a God says, you can't get nothing from me if you doubt. So don't walk around here this year talking about faith for it, Whatever I need, I must have faith for it. Don't sing the song, because you gonna mess the rest of us off. You throwing the chorus off. You throwing the tonality off, everything. I don't even want to play behind you, because you messing up my receiving something, because you got your nothing in the midst of my something. I don't want your negativity rubbing off on my song. Don't even sing it. If you catch somebody singing it, buddy, then get nothing, just come tap me on the shoulder. I'll stop playing. I'm going to stop playing right there. I don't want to play behind you. I'm going to stop Marcus on the drum, hit another drum until they stop singing. Don't mess up my song. Don't. We up here jamming. Whatever. And you out there trying to get in because you like the beat, but you don't believe nothing that the lyrics say. The devil is a lie. I'm telling y'all, look, y'all better understand who's standing before y'all. Now, I ain't playing with y'all. I'm serious. I intend to get something from the Lord this year, not next year. I've waited long. I wish I had somebody in here that felt like me. I've waited long enough. I've been nice long enough. I doubted long enough. I've been trying to pull you up long enough. Look, if you ain't come, either get in the car or close the door. I got places to go, places to be, things to do. I wish I had somebody that would celebrate that with me. I really got faith for it. And you keep taking us back because you keep going back, because you keep withdrawing, because you keep snatching back. Elijah and his servant, they left. Elijah went straightway after he told King Ahab. He says, us two little prophets, the prophet and his servant, we've called fire down from heaven, and I executed the false prophets. And I'm telling you to celebrate, and now I'm about to go and ask God, will he open up the rain? And this is where the message. Two men, they go. And Elijah, I'm only going to try to attempt to do this. Now, I just told y'all I'm 52 years old. So I don't know how this is going to work out. So Tasha, I might need you. You know, when I was 25, I was preaching on the floor, laying down, rolling over. You remember that, man? I was down on the floor. I was like, down, laying on the floor. All y'all were so impressed. Let me just tell you, you're not getting that today. Not getting that today. I'm going to need Danielle and Tasha. I'm going to need y'all to stay close and pay attention. But Miss Lene, I just want you to see what it looked like. Man calls fire down from heaven. He takes, after the fire falls and consumes the sacrifice, he takes a big old sword and he cuts off the heads of over 100 false prophets. Then he goes over to the king. He says, celebrate. Go, eat, and drink, and get ready because the rain is coming. And then straightway, he went, climbed a mountain. I want y'all to understand. He did all of that. He and his servant climbed a mountain. And then he got down like this. He prayed like this. Come on, some of y'all be mad talking about, do I got to get on my knees to pray? This man prayed. He prayed like, can I just stand up, pray? Can I pray like this? This man. And I'm not even doing it right because the Bible says he put his head between his knee. I can't get down. I don't even know. I can't even get down there. You better watch me. I'm telling you, you ain't keeping your eye on me. I said, Perry, I may need you to move closer, man. You all the way in the back. I may hurt myself. He prayed like that because he didn't want anything else in his face. He didn't want anything else in his ears. He needed to focus on what he needed to focus on. He did not do all of this calling fire down from heaven, but now he's getting ready to ask God for rain. So he gets down and he starts praying. His servant doesn't question him. His servant just stands there. As the pastor of TLC Ministries, I'm here to tell you, I'm praying for some more people that'll just keep their eyes open because I shouldn't be like this and you be watching TV. I shouldn't be like this and you watching reruns of Law and Order. I'm just saying. I shouldn't be like this. Nobody got my back. The enemy can attack me. A bear can come. A lion can come out of nowhere. Y'all just happy in Jesus. And I'm like this, asking for rain for you. Because I was content in my little mountain. I was sitting there by myself. I came out to get rain for you. And y'all just happy go. And I'm just, while he's down there, he tells the servant, when he finishes the first time, everybody say the first time, finishes the first time, he looks up and he tells the servant, go look. He does not tell his servant what to look for. You know that's the first question that come on. Come on, servants. You know that's the first question you want to know. Okay, wait, hold on. What am I looking for? But the servant never asks because he understands the assignment. The prophet said he saw rain. The servant say, I don't know what it looked like, but I know what he said. So all I got to do is go look for what he said. That means if I'm down like that and I'm praying and I say, go look, and I was praying for you a job, if I get up and say, go look for it, you don't have to ask me what you're looking for. What did I say I was just praying for? If I do like that, and I'm asking God for a house, when I get up and I say, go look for it, you don't have to ask me, what does the house look like? Is it a 2-bedroom or 4-bedroom? Is it a 4-family flat or is it a steady house? Is it bungalow style? Is it yellow or is it green? Does it have a fence around it? What about a parking lot, a driveway? You don't have to ask that. All you got to do is go look. And if you see what I've been praying for in a place where it was not before I prayed, then that's what you're looking for. But you have to be willing to go look. I'm in this way too long. You have to be willing to go look with no explanation, with no map, with nothing. Just go look. I'm not telling you I'm perfect. I just said Elijah was not a perfect man. God had to deal with him several times about his attitude. Elijah had a real funky attitude. Elijah would be nasty and funky to people and then go and blame God for it. I'm just mad for you. God, like, you not mad for me. You're not mad for me. You are not. You don't have no righteous indignation. You ain't got no ball of fire because they doing me wrong. You just mad that you got to go tell them. But Elijah said, I'm praying for rain. Go look. And the servant just went on his word and looked. All he was looking for was something different that looked like rain. That's it. So he came back. He ran out there, he looked, He came back. He said, I don't see a thing. Nothing is different. I don't see any rain. Nothing is different. Now here is the deal. Elijah says to him, I'm going to pray again. Same position. I ain't going to do that too many more times for y'all. Give y'all effect. I'm trying to preach a story to y'all so y'all can see it. Now, he says, now after he did it the first time and he came back, told him nothing, he said, I want you to go look again. I want you to look 7 times. If it takes 7 times, I want you to have the attitude, however many times it takes, go look. Which some theologians says that it was actually 8 because the first time he wasn't counting. So there may be a typo. Go look 7 more times. That means that 8 times he had to be willing to go and look when he didn't see any change. He didn't see change first time, he had to go look again. He didn't see change the second time, he had to go look again. And guess what else had to happen? Elijah had to keep on in that uncomfortable position. He had to keep praying. Even though the person came back, first time, I didn't see nothing. Second time, I didn't see nothing. Third time, I didn't see nothing. Every time he said he didn't see nothing, Elijah had to pray. A whole lot of praying went into seeing nothing. A whole lot of praying went into seeing nothing. Now, y'all be honest with yourself. Don't raise your hand right here. Don't raise your hand right here. Second time. No, I'm going to start high. The 5th time, he didn't see nothing. How many might have kept on praying still? I thank y'all for your honesty. I'm so happy. Because if somebody had raised their hand, I'll tell you right now, I was about to cancel church and Christmas right now today. How many of us might have made it to 4 times? How many would have at least, probably would have went 3 times, but you would have changed positions? How many of you, maybe 3 times, but you wouldn't have ran with the same interest you did the first time? You wouldn't have came back with the same amount of joy you had first time you ran. How many of y'all really by time 2, y'all have been like, look, man. You call fire down from heaven 1 time. And for something that should be easier than fire coming from heaven, like rain come from heaven. I do not understand why it didn't work first time. Whole lot of praying. What am I saying? Check your attitude. Because we want stuff to happen fast all the time. Sometimes you got to put a whole lot of praying into seeing nothing change. And you still got to do what? Keep praying. I wish I had a witness on that. That word, that you got to endure it, right? You got to, as a soldier, you got to endure it. That means the same attitude. As a matter of fact, really not the same attitude, because you should be asking more intensely now. Why? Because you already told the king it's going to rain. You done already killed his false prophets. If you go back and it's not raining, you next. That's why some of y'all don't want to testify to people. That's why some of y'all don't want to witness to people, because you don't want to tell them how good God is, and then you going through something and you up here praying 6, 7, 8 times and nothing changed. You don't want that person to come back and say, I thought you said your God was blessing you. I thought you said everything was going to work out. I thought you said that you was blessed and highly favored. And because you so embarrassed, now you done changed position. Now you didn't stop running. Now you're not looking for anything anymore. Now you're not expecting anything anymore. When the truth of the matter is, you need to tell God, look, my name and yours is on the line. I didn't tell them that I could do anything. I told them that you was about to bless. I didn't tell them that I was about to bust a move. I told them that you was about to bust a move. So if you don't bust a move, all I'm going to do is go back and tell them, I don't know why you didn't do it. How do I know it works? Because that's what Moses did. Moses said, if you're going to kill all them, then take my name out the book. Can you imagine the audacity of Moses, who barely saved himself, the old murdering somebody? He going to look at God and tell God, well, you take my name out the book, as if God couldn't take his name out the book. But God didn't take his name out the book. He said, look, if you're going to do that, then I done lied about you to all these people over here. And if you're going to be a liar, then I don't want to follow you. And God said, well, I am not a liar. So your prayers should be intensifying when you are not seeing what you're praying for. They shouldn't be falling back. You shouldn't be changing positions. Don't be like Wile E. Coyote, and go back to the Acme store and buy a rocket and strap the rocket on your back, and then the road runner run by and you light the rocket and you almost got the road runner, and then you run into a mountain. So you throw the rocket away and you go back to Acme and now you buy a catapult. When you almost had the road runner with the rocket, why you ain't go get another rocket and just light it faster than you lit it before? Keep using the rocket because the rocket will work. Lord, you got me preaching cartoons to folk, and I'm trying to get through. Look at your neighbor and say, why are you changing up? Why are you changing up? Well, it ain't supposed to take this long. Elijah, 7, 8 times kept praying. He put a lot of prayer into a little. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. First, he put a lot of prayer into no change. But then that 7th time that servant ran back up to him, he said, oh, yeah. Here's something else that's going to get y'all. He said, oh, yeah, I see a cloud. It came up out the sea, but it was real small. He said, but he was excited. He said, because before, 6 times, I didn't see nothing. I done been out here, didn't see nothing. At least I see something. See, some of you need to celebrate the something you see. Because sometimes it takes a lot of your attitude and prayer to get a little move out of God. And if you're going to complain about the little change, Lord, I've been praying all this time, and that's all you're going to do? Oh, I sound like somebody in this room right now. Somebody watching, you just clocked off you ain't even out there no more because I just got on your nerve, didn't I? I've been praying all these years. I can't even get a date. I mean, just a little. I've been dressing up all these years, and I can't even get nobody to say hi at the gas station. Sat in that jail. Near about rock to death. Because some of y'all, that's your attitude. You feel like because you prayed a lot, then God should move a lot. So a lot of prayer went into a little move. Ooh. And that's how it is sometimes. Sometimes you pray for years. Can you imagine Abraham? Abraham waited for years. Tried to move on his own and still messed up. In all them years, come on, y'all. All them years, all he got was Isaac. I'm sorry. I'm not saying, it's like you would think after all that waiting and all that praying that Jesus would have been the one that would have came into play. All he got was a little baby. He prayed a lot and got a little move from God. And God was talking about this little move like it was the greatest thing. Like, you shall have a son. He's like, this it? Little pink boy crying and can't hollering. Thought he was going to float out of Mary and rise up. You know what I'm saying? Come on, that's how some of y'all feel about y'all first. It's your firstborn. You can never say it, but that's what you was like. I went through all that. Ready? Especially when they're not little babies no more, when they turn like 12. Come on, for some of y'all, when they turn like 6. Some of y'all, when they turn like 3. You be looking at a little baby like, I prayed for you. I asked God all them years for you. Got the nerve to tell me that you tired of listening to me and you don't believe that because you don't know what you're doing, mama. You don't know what you're talking about, daddy. You got the nerve to be talking to me like I'm a nobody, like I'm somebody on the street. Do you know I prayed for you? And since the Lord showed me once that he hear my prayers, I could pray that he take you up out of here. You know what I'm saying? Keep messing with me. Come on, no, I like you. Some of y'all ain't prayed about your children. You have not gone back to the Lord and said, for real? This it? Out of all I went through, this who you gave me? Because we can pray a lot and get a small move from God. Elijah's been praying in an uncomfortable position, sending his servant to run uncomfortably and expected him to come back being excited about seeing nothing. Because you can't be excited about seeing something until you're excited about seeing nothing. Finally, he comes back 7 times. He says, I saw something, but it was small. And that small move of God excited Elijah. Elijah didn't sit there and waste time and say, I prayed all this time for this little move. I prayed all this time for this little change in my marriage. I prayed all this time for this little change in my children. I prayed all this time for this little change in my job. I prayed for 10 years and they're going to give me a 10-cent raise. See, this can't be God. That's what we'll say. Can't be God. This can't be God. I prayed for a new car, and the best he could do was give me a used car from 2002. This it? Oh, some of your attitudes need to be changing right now. Y'all need to be repenting right now. God, I'm so sorry. I did not know until he brought this out. So we could pray a lot for a little move. But let me tell you why I tied a little a lot instead of a lot a little. Because you could put a lot of prayer and a lot of life and get a little move from God. But let me tell you why Elijah jumped straight up. Because he knew that a little move of God was enough to change. I'm through. He said that one little change, that one little cloud rising up, all of a sudden he has jumped up and he started running. He told the king, he said, you better get out of here before that rain started falling so hard. All I saw was a little change, a little move. He said, that's all right, because all God needs is a little move. If God moved 1 inch, I promise you it's going to be enough for everything that we've been praying about, everything that we've been talking about. Don't judge the size of God's movement. Don't judge the width of God's movement. Don't judge the weight of God's movement. Don't judge how big or how small his movement. Just judge the fact that God just moved. Because however God moves, I promise you, it's going to be enough rain in it for everybody. However God moves, I promise you, it's going to be enough rain in it to heal the whole land. However God moves, it's going to be enough in that little move that's going to be a blessing to the whole nation. I wish I had somebody that would celebrate. Yeah, I prayed a lot and I got a little, but a little produced a lot. The Bible said that suddenly, when he got up and ran, suddenly that he saw the sky, it grew dark, and the clouds began to rumble, and the rain began to fall, and the wind began to blow, so much so that Elijah and his servant had to tuck in their robe and run all the way to Jezreel. Why? Out of one small move. Your God don't need to make big moves for you. Your problem ain't that big. Your stuff ain't that big. Your little thing ain't that big. What you going through ain't that big. It's only big to you because you feel like I got to put a lot into getting this little bitty old move. But if you recognize that God doesn't need to put a lot into you, God already got what you need. God has already blessed you with what you need. It's a big move that's going to come out of God moving a little bit. And all I'm trying to tell you is that should encourage you to pray a lot if you have to. Pray a lot, whatever you got to do. If you could get a small move out of God, you just blessed your whole life. If you can get an inch of a move out of God, if you can get God to turn his head, if you can get God to snap his little pinky finger, that's enough for a blessing that you ain't got room enough to receive in your life. I wish I had somebody in here that understood that God can turn your whole life around with just a little bit of move. I dare you jump up and shout, just move a little, God. I dare you to move a little. I can get a big blessing out of a little move. I can get a big blessing out of a little move. I can get a big blessing out of a little move. God can change my life out of a little move. I dare somebody shout about it and give God a praise right now. So what you prayed 7 times? So what you only got that little bit of move? So what it didn't look like you thought it was going to look? So what it wasn't big enough so everybody could say, ooh, God moved on your behalf. It was such a minute move that only one person could see it. And that was the person that was looking for it. I wish I had the time to ask you, what are you looking for? Are you looking? Are you looking? I know you're praying, but are you looking? I know you're praying, but are you expecting? I know you're praying, but are you walking it out in faith? I know you're praying, but what are you doing outside of your prayer? You got to get up and you got to go look for it. Because you will not find what you do not look for. Jesus said, seek and you shall find. You at least got to. And all I'm trying to tell you is you have been discouraged because you don't see a big thing that God did. You don't see a big change. You don't see the big house. But God got you a little studio. You upset about that. God, I thought I prayed all this time. I thought you was going to give me the new thing. God's like, why do I need to give you the new thing? Let me give you this thing and see how you handle the small change. They almost died in the small change that God made. Y'all not hearing what I'm saying? They almost drowned in a small cloud. Imagine if God had released a big cloud. He'd have flooded the earth. He said, I'm just trying to make it rain right here. All you need for that is somebody should be celebrating. All your marriage need is a little cloud. All your family need is a little cloud. All your body need is a little cloud. You don't need no big cloud. All your finances need is a little cloud. All your economy need is a little cloud. All your healing is a little cloud. It's only big to you because you're standing on this side of it. But God is like, there is nothing impossible to me. I can bring everything you need out of a little. Can I prove it? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. He brought everything in the earth out of his little word. John 1 says, the word, without the word, anything that we see, it would not be seen. Because everything that we see, he spoke it out of his word. Hold on. When God gets ready to bless a husband and a wife, he uses his little seed, plants it into a womb, and out comes a baby. Little, 9 months, they expect to see it. 9 months, they see it. God said in the beginning, he said, I'm going to cause all the trees and all the vegetables to come from the seed. It's going to bear its own seed. So the apple might have started as an apple, but then God never had to tell it to grow again. Because the apple didn't grow another apple off the apple. It grew another apple off the little seed that's smaller than the apple it produced. That's why the Bible says, do not despise because a small beginning to God is enough to drown you. God said, if you pay your tithes and your offering and give it with your heart and do it diligently, he said, I will break out one window, one. He didn't say windows with an N. He said, window. I will break out a window and pour you out one blessing, just one, out of one window that you do not have room to receive. You put a lot of prayer in. Put a lot of time in, put a lot of searching in, put a lot of seeking in. God's saying today, yeah, a lot may only produce a little in me, but a little in me will produce a lot for you. But you got to keep praying, and you got to be diligent. Don't change position. Don't stop looking. Don't give up. Don't faint. Continue to seek. Continue to pray. Jesus said, ask what you will in my name, and it shall be done. He didn't say maybe. He didn't say we'll think about it. You stand in faith, and you keep praying. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. All your friends standing there mocking you because you still praying for something that you said you was going to have 8 years ago. And it still hasn't happened yet. But I'm not telling you something I read in a book. I'm telling you that when I married PW, doctors had told both of us separately that there would never be children in our future. But I had the seed of dreams when I was a child that I had twins, a son and a daughter. I asked God. He said, this way, you ain't got to do it twice. You know, some people be trying to get a son, then they want a daughter, and then all they could get is sons. God said, I'm going to take care of you. That's all. That's it. See, it was big to me. It was little to God. God, like, that's it. Stand up, sweetheart. My son's not here right now, but I'm still praying. No, he'll be back. But you see my point. I live in a house that I ask God. I singled everybody else out that said I couldn't afford it. It was too much. You can't live on out of dry. You can't do this stuff. I said, why not? I was living on Wayburn comfortably. Nobody thought I would have that either. I prayed. I asked